Okay, let's go over a few common tools, basic tools that you need for beekeeping. I'm going to first start with protective equipment that you're going to want to have for beekeeping. Now, in most of our videos, you will see me in a full bee suit. That's simply because that's what I had years and years and years ago as a teenage beekeeper with my granddad. I think he bought this for me. It's really, really thin. But that's just what I have. A full suit like this is not necessary. A lot of times today, people will wear just a jacket that has a veil on it. We'll talk about the veil in just a moment. But as long as you wear long pants and then you just wear the jacket with the veil attached to it, then a lot of times you're okay. So you can go with the full bee suit like this. You can go with just a jacket. And then you'll also see beekeepers that wear nothing at all. And that's just personal preference. A bee sting, to me, it's not a big deal. It's not painful to get a bee sting. For me, it's the next 2 or 3 days. It tends to just itch. And so that drives me crazy. So for that reason, I wear the protective equipment just because I don't want to have those itching bee stings for 2 or 3 days. But you can use whatever level you want. Again, you can use a full bee suit like this, just a jacket with a veil, or nothing at all even if you want. Now, if I get stung, it's oftentimes on the hands. Okay, while I'm handling a frame, I might mash a bee and he's going to sting me. So I definitely recommend gloves. And again, you can use these whether or not you're using just a jacket or this full bee suit or even nothing at all. But the beauty here is that they have the partial sleeves that come up over your arms, and that way bees aren't going to get inside your glove. And then your veil, your helmet and your veil, these come in a number of different kind of varieties. As you can see, this one, I have a helmet with a veil around it, a square veil around it, and then the bottom is zipper type. That's simply because the bee suit that I have, the attachment here is zipper. And so when I put this on, I just zip it all the way around and it's completely enclosed. Other veils will just have a kind of a drawstring at the bottom. And really all that is, this is just to keep the bees away from your face, obviously. A lot of times people will get bees on their arm or their hand or whatever, and your instincts are to just kind of wipe them off. But if people get bees around their face, their ears or their eyes or mouth, they tend to panic and so forth. So this is really just to kind of keep them away from your face. But it can be as simple as this as well. It doesn't have to be a helmet and a big square veil. It can be as simple as this. Really, really simple veil, no helmet in it at all. And then it's just a drawstring at the bottom to draw it tight. If you use a drawstring, you want to have a shirt or something that has a collar. That way you can pop the collar up, get the drawstring under it, pop it back down, and so forth. So just any simple little veil and helmet combination to keep the bees away from your face, okay? Now let's talk tools. We'll first start with just a basic smoker. We'll shoot another video on exactly how and what to use to build a fire in your smoker, but you want just a basic smoker. We've talked about in a number of the videos, the reason you use the smoker when you're getting into your bees is because that messes up their communication. Bees communicate through pheromones, through a scent and a smell that they pick up with their antennas. And when you go in to disrupt their hive, they could send an attack signal to one another. And if you use smoke to just kind of blow on them as you're getting into your beehive, it disrupts their ability to communicate with one another. Just keeps them calm. In general, it'll keep them much calmer if you use a smoker. So you definitely want a smoker. The second tool that I'll share with you here, I have a couple of hive tools here that I'll share with you. One, I don't exactly know what it's called. This is called a J-hook. I don't exactly know what this is called, but these are very, very useful for the purpose. You can use this for prying and for scraping. and then it's turned in an L shape there. Those are very good for separating frames and so forth. But with this, so for instance, you want to lift this top super, you just take this and you pry it in there, and then you can lift it that way. The bees are going to glue everything together with a product that's called propolis. So they will glue this together. So this could be very, very tight on top. You'd use this to pry it loose. Here with the frames on top, in this particular super, I have spacers between the frames, so I can't demonstrate it all that much. But if you had 10 frames in here and these frames were stuck together very tightly, then you can take this L-shaped frame and you can put it in there and just kind of pry them apart this way. So again, if you don't have these spacers in here, the bees, these frames will touch like this, and the bees will use propolis to glue those together. And you'd want to use this tool in here this way and just separate those so that you can then lift them up, right? So that's one frame tool, hive tool that you can use. I actually use this J-hook tool more than I use that one. It has the same ability here to be used as a pry between the supers and between the brood boxes. The beauty of this J-hook is that it can actually be used to lift the frames out, right? So you can do similar things in prying them apart. So if I had two frames like this that were kind of stuck together with propolis, I can similarly stick the tool in there like that and just kind of pry those apart. But then in addition to being able to pry them apart, the J-hook, the beauty of this is you can hook the J in the J-hook right between those frames, and then you got a leverage point back here, and it just lifts that frame up for you, and then you can get a hold of it, right? And then you can come over to this end, and again, you right between the frames, you lift it up, and you just pull that up. So very common tool, very useful tool, J-hook tool there. Also a bee brush. A lot of times I will use the smoker to kind of move the bees away. But if there's an occasion that I can't, maybe the smoker goes out, or maybe I need to be a little bit more aggressive with moving the bees, especially with the gloves. Some people will just kind of brush them away with their hands, but you can also use this bee brush. The bristles on it are very flexible, as you can see, so it's very gentle. And so for instance, if I wanted to put the inner cover back on top of this and bees were all around the edge, I wouldn't want to just put the inner cover on top and kill all those bees on the edge. So I could just gently, with the bee brush, I can brush them away quickly and then put the top on it. So you definitely want a bee brush. And now these next two tools, I would call them optional. They are very useful, but I would call them optional. This is a frame tool, and the purpose of this is actually so that you can manage a frame with one hand, right? So typically when I take the frames out, again, I use the J-hook, and then I'm, one hand on each end. And when the frame is full of honey, 2 hands is typically necessary, unless you have one of these frame tools. And again, it just clamps on in the middle, squeeze it tight, and then you can pick up the frame and you can, turn it around and inspect it with a single hand. So if you need to manage a frame with one hand, the little frame tool is important. Now, final tool that I'll share with you, and again, this one is optional. I always keep this in my pocket. This is just it's a queen clip. It kind of looks like one of the old hair clips from back in the day when I was a teenager. But it's just a queen clip. The queen, once inside, the queen cannot crawl through these little holes in the queen clip. Now the worker bees, they can. That's important too, because you always want worker bees to go in and care for the queen when necessary. But this is just handy to have, and I always keep it in my pocket because if I'm doing something in the hive, maybe I'm adjusting the hive or splitting the hive, when I see the queen, having this in my pocket is just really convenient to you just go up and just, you just capture the queen, she's in there. And then now you can set her aside, you know where she's at. You don't have to worry about her getting mashed between frames as you pull them in and out. You don't have to worry about, if you're doing a split, putting her in the wrong hive. She's always right there. So it's just convenient to have that. And then once you're finished and you want to let her go, then you just simply hold this over the hive that you want her to go into. You just open it up and she's going to crawl right out and right down into those frames. So queen clip is also a pretty handy tool. I would call it optional, but it's definitely a handy tool. So again, I'll run through them. Definitely got to have a smoker. You definitely need, and I recommend the J-hook hive tool there, frame holder, brush, and then whatever level of protective equipment you feel comfortable in. A suit, just a jacket, some type of veil, gloves, or you could go with nothing at all.